Hi everyone, we're back with the 2020 Biz Kickstart event, and I'm joined with Pam, who's going to talk to us all about burnout, all things health, wellness, mindset, everything that goes into dealing with burnout and how to overcome it, notice it, deal with it, hopefully prevent it. So, Pam, say hey, tell us a bit about you and how you got started.
So I'm a naturopath and nutritionist. I'm based in Brizzy in Queensland, Australia, and I just say that it's really, really hot right now, as most people know. And basically, what happened when I was studying to be a naturopath is I burnt myself out studying. Just took on too much, trying to work, and it just changed basically how I wanted to practice and obviously treat people. So I specialize in burnout and particularly with business owners as well, because we know that, we never stop working. It's a 24/7 world. Our phone is constantly attached to our hip and we just don't stop. And, a little bit about me, I'm a lover of hockey. I love red wine and I have two kids, which keep me on my toes, who are 5 and 3 as well. So yeah, I've got a busy life as well.
I imagine you've got a lot in place then to sort of manage yourself then, because when you started helping people with the whole like burnout thing and helping people with their health to a certain degree, is that from personal experience? Like, did you have moments when you were like, oh, I can feel myself like burning out here, or did you get to that point where you were like, I need to take time off?
Yeah, I mean, I don't ever get to the stage where I'm completely exhausted now, but I do recognize when I need to take a little bit of a break or pull back a little bit. I just find that I just get really overwhelmed or quite stressed and I'm just not coping as well as I should. And then I just basically schedule into my day where I don't see face-to-face clients. So I cut back on my client load and take time out for myself and just chill for a little bit instead of just being go, 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 go. Which is quite easy to fall into. Like anybody can fall into that, but it's just important to recognize, obviously, when your health starts declining. I mean, for me personally, I start to feel a little bit sick. My throat gets sore, and then I think, oh, okay, right, I just need to make a few changes here and start looking after myself so I don't get to the point of complete exhaustion and be fully burnt out again.
You mentioned quite a lot there, to be fair. You mentioned like you feel a little bit sick. So that implies it's like an immune system kind of thing. You feel a little bit like you're burning from both ends, and then you start to put things in place, right? You reduce your client load, you chill out, maybe you watch a film if you're a film person, or maybe you read or whatever it is. But then you mentioned things like you were stressed out, you were overwhelmed, and you notice it. So what are the signs that you notice? Is it just that you feel a little bit off and therefore you take time out before it gets full blown, need a week off or need 2 weeks off or need a month off? Like, what are the signs and symptoms that you can sort of point to?
Yeah, so for everybody in regards to the signs and symptoms, it's going to be a little bit different because we go through 3 different stages and you will notice different symptoms come up for yourself depending on the stage that you're at. Stage 1 is like the alarm stage. You might feel a little bit anxious. You might start to feel that, you're struggling to fall asleep or your sleep's not as good as it could be. You're running on adrenaline, like you have that real kind of heightened feeling. You might have a racing heart, sometimes get a little bit sweaty or shortness to breath. These stages can last for, as short as like a week, depending on how much the stress is or how, busy you are.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could last months. So it just really depends on the individual, how quickly you move through them. And then, the stage 2 is basically just when your body's adapting to all that stress, which is quite normal for us. I mean, but the problem is that we are in that stage for quite some time because our lives are just so hectic.
Right.
And then this is when things start to exacerbate a little bit. You're a little bit moody, you're irritated, you don't have much motivation. Your sleep goes out of whack even more. You wake up during the night and you'll struggle to fall back to sleep. You have difficulty concentrating. You might have a little bit of brain fog. For any females, you might start to get any hormonal irregularities, with your period or PMS or, infertility, those types of things. Gain weight, your blood sugars are all over the whack. You could get digestive complaints as well. And then stage 3 is just you're completely exhausted. So you would fall asleep at night and you would have 10 hours of sleep, and you would just wake up in the morning and be like, wow, I don't actually feel like I've slept right now. I'm just so tired. And then, you need caffeine and other stimulants to help you get going through the day. And then basically any of the symptoms that I've just mentioned can get really quite chronic. And you just basically don't feel like you can get over them. So say you have that cold or, some allergies, and just feel that it never kind of goes away.
Yeah.
That's how you would be feeling.
Right. So, I mean, the bit that caught my eye with that was you can start to adapt to it. So this is where, because I personally hit burnout when I was running tennis coaching business, personal training business, and the online business with 2 health conditions, and it just completely, I needed about a month, I think. But because I was essentially keeping it at bay, if you will, so because I was active, I was adapting to it, getting stronger physically. I could then handle more, but then I was doing more because I could, if that makes sense. So I'd never get to a point where I was like, oh my God, the whole body's dying. But because I would have thought, well, it's almost like you start tricking yourself into thinking, if I work harder, it'll get better. Or if I do more, I can start to ease off. And it's in the sort of health and fitness, like personal training world, that's like overtraining, right? Where you start to experience a lack of progress or a lack of strength or a lack of fitness because you've overworked yourself. You put it down to not working hard enough. So you think, oh, I'm losing my fitness, I'm losing my goals, I'm losing my progress, I should be working harder. So you work harder and then you get less because you're burning yourself out, you're fatiguing. But in your mind, you're like, no, it's not hard enough then. I need to do more. And that was the same feeling I was getting with business as well. Because obviously there's personal training, that's physical, teaching classes as well. Tennis coaching is essentially playing tennis. So it was, but I felt like I needed to do more to get fitter and stronger to be able to handle it, rather than sit back and go, if you keep going like this, you are going to hit that 4th stage, as you say, whereby you don't want to get out of bed, which was the point I hit. So I hit a point where I felt like the sleep didn't do anything for me. And I got to a point where, how can I put it? I was prioritizing doing nothing over seeing clients. So no matter how much I would love seeing clients, because I love what I did, there was a voice that was like, but you need to rest, mate. You can't do that anymore. And this was the same no matter what I ate either. So people that are in the health and fitness space might be like, well, maybe you're not eating enough. It doesn't always work that way, does it? Sometimes there's nothing you can do but rest.
Absolutely. And you can crash and burn when you stop as well. You find that with people that have just been so crazy busy for a period of time, and then they come to that Christmas, that New Year, when they actually have time off and stop, and they think, oh my God, I've just been sick for the last 2 weeks. Because it's actually giving your body that time to rest and recover, but because you just basically been running on so much adrenaline, and that cortisol's been super high, and you feel wired, but you're tired at the same time. Which, is a kind of a weird feeling, because you're like, with that overtraining, you're like, wow, my body's super tired, but I'm like, oh, but I'm okay. Like, let's keep going, which is actually counterproductive, because you're making your body work harder. And then, like you said, we should be taking the load off our body, not putting it on.
It's interesting when you mention taking the time off can sometimes be where it starts to hit you. And that could be a reason why people don't do it. That could literally be the reason why people don't rest, because I feel worse than if I keep going. Like, on what planet can me resting make me feel worse than if I keep going? And that was a conversation that I had for a long time. Because obviously, when you've got health conditions, you pride yourself on your ability to keep going. It's one of the things that I did. It was like, come on, you wimp, you know, get up and do it. You know, don't let it keep you down. Otherwise, you're going to stay down. So you've got to work harder and get fitter to be able to manage this thing. So double-edged sword where I'm concerned. I understand that. But that's part of the battle, isn't it? It's getting through that point where you do start to feel a little bit worse because of the adrenaline. There's the come down. I know a few of my friends that are in the process of launching products and services and businesses and books and traveling and all that. And I go, in about a week or two, you're going to feel like you've been hit by a truck, just to make you aware. So I think that's something that's worth, the reason why I mention it is because it's worth underlining for people. I think it's worth people understanding that it does hit you like that. You do have that massive come down off the adrenaline, off the big rush of it all. And is there something we can do to handle that better? Is there anything that we can do? Because my first instinct is to say no, but that's why you're on the event, Pam. So is there anything we can do about that? Is there anything we can do to mitigate some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first thing to do is to make sure that you eat really well. Because I think sometimes we fall into the trap of like, oh yeah, we're super busy and we don't prioritize obviously our diet, making sure we're drinking enough water. And, you know, if we eat poorly, we feel poor, and then it becomes a vicious cycle because if we feel tired, we want that sugar, that high carbohydrate food, and they're not necessarily, you know, the best foods to be fueling our body with, like if it's heavily processed, that is. And so, you know, making sure that we are on top of our nutrition. And one way to do that, which is hard sometimes in a launch, but there are ways around it because we can buy food that's, you know, prepared or cut up for us, is to make sure we eat really well. So, you know, good quality protein, making sure that we're having fruit, veg, you know, nuts, good fats, you know, your avocado, olive oil, all those types of things to make sure we're actually fueling our body properly so we can get through the launch and, you know, not just crash and burn halfway through as well.
Yeah, for sure. I find that a lot of people, when they are stressed out, when things do get a bit, not on top of you, that's the wrong way of putting it, but people are busy, right? When people do get busy, one of the first things they stop doing is things like self-care, so looking after themselves, which to a certain degree you sort of say, well, it's sort of warranted, but then how are you going to be able to handle the increase in stress if you're not looking after yourself? It's almost like it's almost like you're attacking it from both ends. You're working harder, but then you're not putting yourself in a position whereby you can handle it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think sometimes we forget that, you know, self-care doesn't have to be all these luxurious indulgences, right? It can just be stuff that's really simple. Like you said, it could just be a hobby that you enjoy doing, you know, taking some time out and reading for half an hour or watching a movie, or just like, you know, going and sitting in the sun. Like if you live by the ocean and just, you know, taking that 20 to 30 minute break away from your desk, which will make you way more productive, because you find otherwise you just start procrastinating and you're not actually, you're going over the same thing, you know, your brain starts going off and wandering, or you get on your phone and, you know, start looking at other things that we shouldn't be looking at. So it's not, you know, all about, you know, going to a day spa for a whole day or going away for a weekend or anything along those lines. I mean, you can definitely do that, but it's just the small little snippets that you can do throughout the week that can really make a difference. You know, making sure that, you know, deep breathing, or, you know, 10 minutes of meditation, you know, anything along those lines that can help actually bring your body into a calmer state instead of just being go all the time, is really important.
Is it sometimes like you feel burnt out, even though you might not be physically burnt out? Because you mentioned there things like meditation and keeping yourself in a calm state. So is part of this the whole, like, you feel like you're burning out as opposed to your body genuinely is? Like, where do you sort of draw the line with the whole mental, physical side?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people come to me and say, oh, but I don't feel stressed. And I'm like, but your body's telling a different story.
Yeah.
So your mind could be okay, but your body is obviously giving off these signs that things aren't okay, or vice versa. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be completely different for everybody and how they feel. but 100%. And you don't necessarily have to have like a stressful event or, you know, a big launch or anything along those lines to feel burnt out. It's just that constant 24/7 and being on the go, which is just going to put you into that stress response. You know, you're driving your cortisol high and your adrenals are functioning, you know, a lot more than what they would normally do. And our lives are just so hectic that we stay in that state for such a long time. And the self-care is to help bring it back down and get out of that state.
Yeah, and what I find interesting about that as well is it does lend itself over to the idea that it's about how we spend our time every day. It's about, like, you know, if you don't look after yourself at all, eventually you're going to have to, you know, eventually you are going to burn out, not because, as you said, of a stressful event, but just because you're not taking care of yourself generally, and it is going to get on top of you eventually, you know, especially with today's world being switched on essentially all the time because of smartphones and technology, and everyone wants a personal brand these days. It's all over the place and it's more accessible than ever. But then the people that manage it are the people that are doing some of the things that we spoke about. Is it about the daily habits? Is it about the daily routines that can help us handle that sort of thing and prevent some of the more intense things that we spoke about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd highly encourage everyone to assess how busy they are just on a day-to-day basis. You know, and one of the ways that you can do that, which, you know, can be a little bit time consuming, but you can essentially just map out your day and break it down into half an hour bits and find out where your time's actually going. And you can be a lot more productive because, you know, we procrastinate, we all do it at the best of times, but you can see where you're wasting time and maybe you can allocate that and make something else a priority to be putting, you know, your health before something else. Because like I said, it can just be half an hour during the day or, you know, at nighttime or something along those lines that you're actually taking time out to do that. It doesn't have to be, you know, for 5 hours.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea as well, whereby sometimes it's got nothing to do with the work that you do or the events that are happening. It could be just how you're organizing your day. It could be, you know, like an example, typical example is today. So I've got this event with you. I've got 3 or 4 calls with people. I've got content to do. I've got people to speak to, and I sit there and I go, if I crammed it all in, essentially, I could have an hour or two whereby I do nothing so that I can relax and I can chill out, or I can take it easy. I can have a breather between everything that I do, and it'll take longer, but I can make it last and it won't beat myself up. And I have days when I do both. So
Yep.
I have days when I'm intense, and then I have pretty much the rest of the day to plod and chill out and do the casual stuff and the stuff that doesn't really take a lot of energy or effort at all. And then I have days when, no, you've had a tough day, sleep's been a bit of a dodgy one for you. Take your time, plod through it, and have a breather between every activity that you do, and you can make it, you know? So it's not straightforward, but as I say, I'm probably one of the outliers in that I'm self-aware enough and I understand myself enough to know what different tools I can use in the toolkit, so to speak, that can work with that. But for people that don't have those tools, what are some of the things that you would suggest that people can do? You mentioned meditation, you mentioned like just generally not really doing an awful lot sometimes, watching films and self-care and all those things. What are some of the strategies that we can use that we can essentially pull out and use them when we need them?
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing that you mentioned there, which I will go back to, is sleep. You know, we tend to obviously not prioritize sleep sometimes, which is not a good thing because obviously it exacerbates a lot of, you know, complaints, our fatigue. And if we feel tired, we tend to go for caffeine, high sugar foods, which is just essentially just puts us on a merry-go-round that we just keep going back around. So we need to make sure that, you know, we go to bed before 10 p.m. And, you know, try and make sure that we're not having any screens or any blue light prior to that. You know, we have really good sleep hygiene, our rooms, nice and dark, and, you know, our pillows are comfy. We're not too hot. We're not too cold. You know, the temperature wants to be right. And then essentially, basically, we want to get our circadian rhythm into a good, basically every night we want to go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time. And we shouldn't technically need alarms to do that. But, we want to make sure, even if it's on the weekends, like I understand that things happen, but we do want to make sure that we are having that consistent sleep pattern, because it does actually help with the whole stress response too, for sure. But yeah, there's other things that we can do throughout the day is not drink too much caffeine. If we're having multiple cups of caffeine, obviously that is going to put us on edge that little bit more, and then it can spiral from there. Making sure that we are eating regular meals, because sometimes that we go, oh, we're just too busy. Okay, no, we'll just get that done. And we don't actually sit and step away from our computer and eat a meal. So that's really important. And then making sure, it's a good combination of veggies, protein, and fats, stabilizing our health, like our blood sugar levels. So then our energy stays nice and consistent throughout the day as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then there will be different strategies that work for different people. Deep breathing, meditation, sitting out in the sun, taking actually time away from your computer, and having a little bit of a break. So I guess it's just finding something that resonates or just really works for you, in relation to, some strategies. But I do like your strategy in the sense that some days is really hectic and the other days are not. So you just kind of plan. And I think it's really important that people do try and balance. I mean, balance sometimes just goes out the window too, but it's, if we just recognize that, yesterday I had a really full on day. And then if the next day we're feeling quite tired, then we think, okay, maybe if we're doing that consistently for 2 or 3 days, then that is a recipe for burnout as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I organized myself that way on purpose. So I did that from day one. So it's easier, right? It's easier if you've always done that, right? And some people don't like to change. Some people feel that they can't pick their life up, put all the bricks in a different order, and then pray it works, right? Some people can't get out of a cycle. Like if you've got a family and you've got kids and businesses and all kinds, and sometimes the routine, if you will, isn't something that you've created. It's something that's been given to you to a certain extent. And I'm very aware that I'm probably a one-off, right? When I can go, oh, well, I've got clients that can rearrange if they need to, and I can, my health is very important to me. So if I go feel a bit under the weather, I don't want to be not the best version of me for you, aka my clients and customers and people and staff sometimes. It's like, look, I'm not 100%. You need me at 100%. I'm going to have a slow day today. You know what you need to do. You know what some of the tasks that you need. If I have to message you, I can, because texting, I can text instead of phone call, or Slack or whatever it is. I can even do like voice messages if people need something a bit more in depth. And I just go, that's my day. And I guess to a certain extent, like it's part of setting things up beforehand. Like if you can, like if I didn't do that, if I didn't let people know that that's what can happen, like I don't feel like I can do it, if you understand where I'm coming from. So if I don't tell people, look, I do have bad days, sometimes I can't do calls, clients aren't going to be understanding if you don't explain things. So I was like, I've got to do that. I've got to organize things beforehand so that if things do come up, they are aware of what goes on. But a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people can't do that, right? Like if you've got responsibilities and you've got things that you need to do, it can be hard to turn around and say, I can't do them. It's very hard to have that conversation with yourself. So what can we do in that position? Because I'm aware I'm like, probably top 10% of people that can do that. What about the people that are in like the bottom 20%, where half of their day is given to them? The other half of their day is, if they have time, they get the chance to do some of the things that we've spoken about. What can those people do?
Have clear boundaries. have really clear boundaries that you have. If you have got half a day, so I'm fully aware of it as well, because I've been in that place and it's not a nice place to be in, but I schedule my week. So basically that, Tuesday morning for me, I always have off. I go to the gym, I do something for myself, and then I only see clients in the afternoon, because I don't like changing clients around. Like I only cancel clients if it's like 100% that I have to do that. Yep. So I get that, but I schedule my days obviously in advance. There's only set times that clients are booked, and I stick to that. Like that's yep. my schedule. And unfortunately, if you can't see me in that time, then like I just can't see you. I'm happy to refer you to somebody else. And most of the time people change their schedule to fit in with you. They will do it. If they think you're the right person, then doing that. But also in our day-to-day lives, it's okay to say no. It doesn't make you a bad person for like saying no to that thing that you don't really want to do anyway. That stresses you out or just puts more load into your lifestyle. So it's totally okay to say no or to cancel plans if you need to. Anything along that lines to make sure that you are looking after you. I'm not saying become a recluse, but there are times where you're just like, no, okay, I don't want to do that. That doesn't, align with me, or I don't want to spend time with those people, or I just need some time out. Sorry, I can't do it. And you know what? You don't have to give an explanation all the time. You can just simply say no, like, no, thank you. So I think that's really important.
It's interesting that you mentioned stuff like that, because that's more practical than the whole meditate for 10 minutes, because some people can't find 10 minutes. I know there's an argument that if you don't have 10 minutes, you need to meditate for 2 hours. There's a real sense of like, the more stressed out you are, the more you need to do it. But there's a real sense of like, I need to set myself up to be able to do the meditation. I need to organize my day so that I can have the time to do the other things that we've spoken about. In my experience, though, saying no does help if you have a reason, even if it's a bad one. Even if it's a terrible one, even if it's one that isn't even true. But, oh, sorry, I can't make it. I'm going to be ill that day. That's a really bad example, but it does help to have a reason, even if it's just for your own sense of, I'm saying no for no reason. There's that sense of, it's nice to have a reason, even if it's a created one, even if, sorry, I need time out because I've got this important meeting to do the next day and I need to be in the right frame of mind, or it does help to have a reason, even if it's a bad one. It's something.
I think that's up to the individual in relation to how comfortable they feel, with all of that stuff. But this is also, personal life, work life, all areas of life. Particularly with my kids going to school, sometimes I don't take on the extra stuff there just because I'm like, oh no, that's going to stress me out even more. And I don't want to be that person, because essentially if I'm going to go and help out, I'm just going to be irritated and moody. So I'm not really putting my best foot forward as it is. Probably, and I don't want to, I know exactly. So I don't really want to be that person when I'm there. So I'm like, oh no, it's actually better for me if I say no, and maybe everyone else as well.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Help out with this extracurricular thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to be screaming at the kids for 40 minutes. I'm going to need a baseball bat after the first 2 hours. Heads will roll if I stay there longer than 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I think that it's, sometimes you've got to just figure out, like, if I do this, what is it going to be like? If I say yes to this, what's the experience going to be like? If I'm not in a good place, it's not going to be good for anyone involved. And that sometimes that's not what people would want either. If you're used to being able to give your best self to things and you find something you think, I can't do that. If you agree and they don't like the fact that you're not your best self there, you're like, why were you really moody when you did that thing? Yeah. And it's like, because I didn't really want to do it, but I just agreed, and it's almost like that thing where, like, if a child doesn't want to do something, you make them do it, they will make sure you regret making them do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Definitely.
like they throw things around, they don't try, they have a face on them that could probably put you off having kids. And I know because I used to work with kids, it's like you try and force them to do it, they will do everything in their power to make sure that A, you regret it, and B, you don't ask them again. So I think that's something that could be said for adults, because secretly we are just kids that have been told to behave like adults. So yeah, it's a very good point, to be fair, because the people that have asked you want you to be a different version of yourself, and if you can't be that person, you can't actually give anything to it anyway. So saying no works best for everybody.
Exactly. But also just going back to meditation, like I think people think they need to sit there and just say and, you know, cross their legs and all of that kind of thing. You know, meditation comes in varying forms for every single person. Like my meditation is my exercise. It's the time where I completely switch my brain off and I don't think about anything else. And I am just in that place of, like I'm literally in my own little world. Don't talk to me because you probably won't get any sense out of me. I am just completely zoned out. I'm not thinking, you know, I'm just doing my workout, and that's my meditation.
Yeah.
So, you know, that'll come in for, you know, like I said, varying forms for everything. And I think you need to find what works for you. So don't feel that you need to sit somewhere and meditate for half an hour, because that's really, really difficult for some people. But if that's something that you want to do, like anything, we have to practice it. You'd literally start, you know, for 3 to 5 minutes, and then that's what all you do for a couple of weeks, and then you'd slowly progress from that. Some people like guided, other people don't. You know, again, some people don't like the voices. You have to find the meditation that you know works for you as well.
It's interesting you mentioned guided, because you'd be surprised how many people use guided to distract them from their own voice. You know, so I think to a certain extent, I agree it works for people that need the instruction. It works, but then there are people out there that go, "Oh, somebody else talking to me rather than me talking to me," and that's so much better.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a fine art trying to switch your brain off, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a bit of I would call it a belief, but it's out of experience. I mean, we can't switch our heads off. We just think about different things. And I think all the people out there that talk about meditation mention things that people that are trying to get it have no idea what they're talking about. Like the people that are beginners have no idea what experienced meditators talk about. Like you listen to podcasts with them and they're all like, "Oh, I feel myself coming out of my body," and all. And I'm just like, I'm too busy focused on the fact my back hurts, and I'm thinking about what food I'm going to eat. And where on earth do you get this from of leaving your body? And the funny thing is you get to that point because you start thinking about that because you've dealt with everything else.
Yeah.
So people don't talk about it enough. I tried to meditate and I can't do it. So I take to walking and exercising and breathing, and that is all I do. I journal when I can be bothered, but for the most part, it's something that switches my brain off because I'm thinking about something else. Kind of why people enjoy gardening or like cooking, because it's therapeutic, because they can switch their brain off. It's that sort of thing. And I think that's because I can meditate and I go, "Oh my God, my knee hurts. Oh my God, my back hurts. What am I eating later? Where's the food? Am I doing this right? Am I not doing this right? I mean, has something just crawled up my leg? It hasn't, but it's like, has something just crawled up my leg?" So people don't talk about that side of it. Like, I think it's like people go, "Oh, if I'm meditating and it's not like everybody else says it is, I must be doing it wrong."
No.
Part of the problem is it is individual, isn't it? That's part of the problem. That is part of the ordeal, is people that don't know try to listen to other people that do know, but they're talking about something that they're probably never going to experience, at least for a long time. So, I mean, meditation does help, but you've got to do it in a way that makes sense. You've got to be okay with the process as well. I used to hold on to it. I don't know about you, but I used to hold on to, I've got to have a mantra. I've got to do this, do the whole lotus leaf thing. And it was just like, it has to be that way. And I got so frustrated with myself. I started to hate myself because I wasn't doing it. I didn't think I was doing it right because I was listening to everybody that was telling me that it was a different way. And unfortunately, no one, aside from me and a couple of others, that were like, no, that is what the practice is. You're just bad at it right now. And you are just bad at doing it right now. And you'll get better the more you do it. That's why it's a practice. It's not like exercise where if you do it right first time, it'll work. It's everyone starts off awful.
Yeah, they do. But the other thing that people need to do as well is this, like I use it as saying you need to close down some tabs. So think of your brain as like a computer. You're looking at Chrome or Safari or whatever, and how many tabs you have open in that computer. Your brain is exactly the same. And, to function at your best, you need to close some of them down. You don't want to have multiple tabs open all the time, because that in itself can just cause stress and anxiety and overwhelm.
Definitely. So, and can take up some of your brain power as well. Like if you're running on full cylinders, it's like if you've got 100 points, let's say, and you're doing 5 things, it's very hard to give 100 to those 5 things. It's more like 20 to each one, or you sort of distribute yourself across everything. So yeah, we've definitely spoken about a lot regarding how to deal with this, how to prevent it, how to cope with it, the symptoms and the signs and everything. We've covered an absolute ton regarding looking after ourselves and making sure the burnout doesn't kick us in the teeth every time we decide to take on more than we can chew. Where can people learn more about you, Pam? How can people find out what you've got going on?
Yeah, so you can visit my website. It's just pamherd.com. Otherwise, I'm on Instagram, which is Pam_naturopath, or Facebook, Pam Herd Naturopath.
All right.
That's where I'm at.
Awesome. Well, we don't have anybody live, Pam, so we won't be asking anyone questions. I'm sure people can reach out to you on social media or whatever it is if you do have questions. But yeah, it's been great to chat, and I look forward to keeping in touch.
Thank you very much.